Can we have a roll call of councillors just before we begin? Councillor Best and Councillor Shelton, you there?
Yes, we are.
Councillor Bird.
Councillor Bird, are you there?
Owen, you may be muted.
I think the echo is coming from a guest called Ruby. That name is lit up in bold. There we go.
Ah, excellent. Whoever fixed that, brilliant.
Right.
Councillor Bird, are you there? I thought I'd seen him. Councillor Leach? Councillor Lewis?
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Money?
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Moscow?
Yes, present.
Councillor Purdue-Haran?
Yes.
Councillor Shelton?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Sims?
I'm here, thanks.
Councillor Stapleton?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor John Stockwood?
Yeah.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
Present.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes, Peter, I'm here.
Yeah. Councillor Williams?
Present.
Thank you. Has Councillor Leach joined us yet? No. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much. Welcome everyone this evening to the 16th. Welcome
I can
everyone
see
this
Councillor
evening.
Rowan Bird's
Yes, I'm here.
thumbnail, but not hear him.
Good evening everyone and welcome to this evening's Bingham Town Council Extraordinary Meeting for the 16th of June 2020. As part of my introduction to the meeting, we'll just have a brief recap of the standing orders for public participation. Rules 3E to 3K. 3E. Members of the public may make representations, answer questions and give evidence at a meeting which they are entitled to attend in respect to the business and agenda. 3F. The period of time designated for public participation at a meeting in accordance with Standing Order 3E shall not exceed 20 minutes unless directed by the chairman of the meeting. 3G. Subject to Standing Order 3F, a member of the public shall not speak for more than 5 minutes. 3H. In accordance with Standing Order 3E, a question shall not require a response at the meeting nor start a debate on the question. The chairman of the meeting may direct that a written oral response be given. 3I. A person shall raise his hand when speaking, requesting to speak, and stand when speaking, except when a person has a disability or is likely to suffer discomfort. The chairman of the meeting may at any time permit a person to be seated when speaking, and I allow everyone to be seated. 3J. A person who speaks at a meeting shall direct his comments to the chairman of the meeting. 3K. Only one person is permitted to speak at a time. If more than one person wants to speak, the chairman of the meeting shall direct the order of the speaking. I'll also remind everyone present of the standing orders for disorderly conduct. 2A. No person shall obstruct the transaction of business at a meeting or behave offensively or improperly. If the standing order is ignored, the chairman of the meeting shall request such persons to moderate or improve their conduct. 2B. If persons disregard the request of the chairman of the meeting to moderate or improve their conduct, any councillor or the chairman of the meeting may move that that person be no longer heard or be excluded from the meeting. The motion, if seconded, shall be put to the vote without discussion. 2C. If a resolution made under Standing Order 2B is ignored, the chairman of the meeting may take further reasonable steps to restore order or to progress the meeting. This may include temporarily suspending or closing the meeting. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, might I?
I'm still doing my introduction. Thank you very much.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Unfortunately, there has been an incorrect agenda published on the website. The ordinary items on the incorrect agenda will be considered at the next ordinary meeting of the council. I will now read the agenda for all people present in the meeting and then we will proceed through the items of the agenda one by one. Agenda page 1 of 4. Number 1, apologies. Number 2, declarations of interest.
Mr.
Number
Mayor,
3,
thank-
public participation. Time designated for public participation at the meeting that shall not exceed 20 minutes in accordance with Standing Orders 3E to 3K, which I have just read out. Number 4, Win Hill Community Facilities Improvement. To resolve that the council consults the public on applying for a loan to fund improved community facilities at the Town Pavilion, Win Hill playing fields. A, the loan will be a fixed rate loan for £400,000 from the Public Works Loan Board over a borrowing term of 30 years. The annual loan repayments will come to around £19,126.64 at 2.62% interest. The loan repayments would be an increase on the current precept of 6.4%, representing an increase of around £5.30 on the annual council tax payable for a Band D household. Notes that the council has allocated £50,000 reserves to pay the initial annual loan repayments. The cost of future loan repayments to each household will be reduced by the future precept being shared by additional houses being built in the parish.
Mr.
C,
Mayor, may I-
delegates to the Mayor, Chair and Vice Chairman of the
Mr.
Recreation
Mayor,
and
may I
Amenities
interrupt, if
Committee
you don't mind?
work with the proper officer to prepare the loan application and support documentation.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, please.
1 month public consultation on applying for the loan. That if the outcome of the public consultation is public support for the loan, the council will make the formal resolution to seek the Secretary of State's approval for the proposed borrowing at the Town
You are
Council
supposed
meeting
to
on the
stop.
28th of July 2020. Appendices were distributed to councils.
Carry
Number
on,
5,
then.
confidential business. Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960. To resolve that in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, the press and public be excluded from the next item of the meeting. For the reason, the HR expenditure review to be referred to in the confidential business is the council's decision to pay for confidential employment law advice regarding the performance and management of a particular employee. It is reasonable to consider the discussion of the motion will include reference to the confidential legal advice to the council, the performance and management of a particular employee. 5A, councillor motion that following the analysis of HR expenditure for the year to 31st of March 2020 and associated issues prepared by Councillor Tony Wallace, this council has...
Why is this in confidential
Councillor John
business?
Stockwood or Chair of the Policy and Resources Standing Committee. Councillor Francis Purdue-Horan. Council demand that both stand down from the current positions. Proposed by Councillor Tony Wallace, seconded by Councillor John Lewis. And final item on the agenda tonight is another councillor motion, which is Bingham Town Council makes available funds from the COVID-19 Humanitarian Aid Fund for Bingham community groups or sport clubs who have suffered with a loss of income as a result of the pandemic. Proposed, Councillor Gareth Williams, seconded, Councillor Wayne Stapleton.
Mr. Mayor, may I now move my point of order, please?
Oh, 1 second while I get to the right slide. Certainly, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you. And just before I do so, the town clerk was trying to draw your capture attention throughout that introduction, but unfortunately she seems to be muted and can't speak, so I'm not sure if she's now able to join the meeting.
Can you hear
haven't
me?
muted anybody.
I can hear you now.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that rather lengthy introduction. I know there's been a bit of confusion around the agenda this evening, and I do have a point of order I want to raise under that. I'm not going to read out the standing orders, but I'm sure you'll want to know which standing orders I think have been contravened. So just for your benefit, point of order 6B, extraordinary meeting. Point of order 9B and 9F, motions requiring that written notice be given to the proper officer. Point of order on standing order 15B, the proper officer, and standing order 26A and 26D standing orders generally, since you'd be concerned that I identify the relevant standing orders. I now have a piece to read which will take me about 3 or 4 minutes. Please bear with me, Mr. Mayor. So in common with many town councils, Bingham Town Council uses a model form of standing orders drawn up to comply with the requirements of the Local Government Act 1972. Our standing orders were prepared by the National Association of Local Councils, NALC. The standing orders are not complex and neither should they be. They're deliberately straightforward. The rules for convening an extraordinary meeting are set out at Standing Order 6. 6B states that if the Chairman of the Council does not call an extraordinary meeting of the Council within 7 days of having been requested in writing to do so by 2 councillors, any 2 councillors may convene an extraordinary meeting of the Council. The public notice giving the time, place and agenda for such a meeting shall be signed by the 2 councillors. On the 26th of May, I wrote to the Town Clerk requesting that an extraordinary meeting be convened. I was supported by Councillor John Lewis. On the 5th of June, the Mayor emailed councillors in the following terms. I have called an extraordinary virtual meeting of the Council for the 16th of June 2020 at 7 p.m. This addresses a request from Councillor Wallace and Councillor Lewis. Sending an email to say that you will convene a meeting is not the same as actually calling it. At any point from the 5th of June onwards, I was within my right to call that meeting under Standing Order 6B. I gave the Mayor the benefit of the doubt and an extra 6 days to carry out the actions required to make his intentions a reality. The rules for convening a meeting require at 15B1 that at least 3 calendar days before a meeting of the Council, councillors by delivery or post at their residences or by email are served with signed summons confirming the time, place and the agenda, and that a public notice of the time, place and agenda be provided in the public place. Could somebody catch that phone? The 3 clear days expired at close of business on the 11th of June. By 4 o'clock on the 11th of June, none of those actions had been taken. Despite my emails to the Mayor asking when he would issue, I received no reply. He categorically did not share a draft agenda with Council. He shared a draft agenda with the Conservative group, but not with any councillor outside of that group. I had seen no agenda, no meeting had been convened, and so I took the action that was mine to take at any point after the 5th of June. Standing Order 9 sets out the form of the agenda. To keep it simple, an agenda is decided in conjunction with the Town Clerk. If the Clerk is satisfied that the items in the agenda, including motions, are clearly expressed and in order to be included, the agenda is valid. The Town Clerk, while seeking legal advice on the draft agenda prepared by the Mayor, but not shared with me, sent me a draft agenda separating out the business of my motion. The business for which the meeting had been called and for no other. The agenda was therefore valid. So the action I took all of the steps required in Standing Order 15, given the Mayor's failure to do so, and with 1 hour of the working day remaining before I would have run out of time. I posted the agenda in the town notice board opposite Aldi. I issued the summons and went so far as to hand deliver the summons to Councillor Best. I arranged for the agenda to be placed on the town website in accordance with the provisions of the Coronavirus Act. To be clear, I was entitled to issue an agenda because the Mayor, since 5th of June, had not done so. I used an agenda prepared by the proper officer. By definition, the proper officer was satisfied with it. I met all the requirements of Standing Order 15. My actions were entirely lawful, in line with the town's standing orders, and my summons and agenda are valid. The Mayor has indicated that he will impose his own agenda this evening by means of Standing Order 26D, which states, the decision of the chairman of a meeting as to the application of standing orders at the meeting shall be final. He's overlooked Standing Order 26A, which states, all are part of a standing order, except one that incorporates mandatory statutory or legal requirements may be suspended by resolution in relation to the consideration of an item on the agenda for a meeting. The actions I have set out above are required to meet the requirements of the Local Government Act 1972 as enabled by these standing orders. They are statutory requirements. That being the case, the standing orders I have followed in convening this meeting are not open to a disregard under Section 26D. If the Mayor uses 26D to set aside my lawfully convened meeting and its agenda, he will be acting in a manner which is contrary to the law. My agenda is the proper and lawful agenda for this meeting, and I would expect it to be reinstated forthwith.
May I speak as clerk, please?
Okay, I'll just respond to Councillor Wallace's point of order.
Thank you.
Councillor Wallace's opinion, its entire text was sent by him to the monitoring officer, the independent monitoring officer, and he requested her advice. I am following the advice received from the independent monitoring officer. All councillors have signed a code of conduct saying you will have regard to the advice of the independent monitoring officer, and you should remember that when making points of order. Clerk to speak.
Yes, you will already be aware that I have emailed all councillors with my analysis on this matter regarding the two agendas. But for the public record, I need to state as proper officer that I consider Councillor Wallace's analysis to be correct, which takes account of Bingham Town Council standing orders and corresponding legislation. Councillor Lewis's and Councillor Wallace's agenda is validly drawn up and issued. If the Mayor sets aside this agenda, I am concerned that the decisions made this evening could be subject to legal challenge.
Again, Councillor Wallace's opinion was sent by him to the independent monitoring officer requesting her advice. I am following the advice received from the independent monitoring officer. We now proceed with this evening's agenda. Item number 1, apologies. To receive apologies for absence and acceptance. Did Councillor Leach send an apology?
Oh my God, the clerk's challenged him on his legal process.
I haven't heard from Councillor Leach. I don't know whether she's joined the call or not.
I'm here.
Everybody's present then.
Yes, thank you.
Declarations of interest. Do you receive any declarations of interest?
Councillor Williams.
Councillor Williams, then, please.
I'd like to make a declaration of interest into item 4, please, as being a coach at the Bingham Rugby Club. A request to present of what had happened at last week's Recreation and Amenities meeting, as which what was discussed as being the chair, but I will abstain from the vote.
Right.
Thank you.
Is the town clerk indicating again, or is it still hand up from before?
Sorry, I'll take that hand down. Thank you.
Okay. Having received...
I'm sorry, could I just ask you to clarify something for me? Under which provision are you acting now? Under which provision, which specific standing order are you using to stand by your agenda?
I am acting on the advice of the independent monitoring officer.
No, which standing order are you using? We're
Is this a
governed by
point of order, Mr.
I'm asking, it's point of order, Mr. Chairman. What standing order are you acting under? Which rule of Bingham Town Council are you relying on to take this action?
Are you suggesting the independent monitoring officer does not understand standing orders?
I'm asking you a question. We both know that the proper officer who is the town clerk, is empowered to decide in the order of business for this council. The monitoring officer has an interest, but the proper officer has the final say. Are you relying on standing order 26D?
I am acting on the advice of the independent monitoring officer. Advice
Read it out, then. Read it out.
Read the advice, please, Mr. Mayor.
Hello.
Do you wish to make a point of order, Councillor Leach?
No, I'm just saying I'm here and I'm watching and listening and I just don't believe it.
Yet again. Information then. We move on to item number 3 then, please. Public participation. Time designated for public participation at the meeting that shall not exceed 20 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, could I suggest that we as a council this evening suspend the standing orders to allow the members of the public more time to participate in the meeting? I think we have 88 members of the public on here. I believe we have the press interested. We have had almost 2,000 views on our YouTube channel of the meeting 2 weeks ago. We gave no time for the public to make their points of view heard at that meeting 2 weeks ago, much to the shame of this council. I'm suggesting that we suspend standing orders and allow questions from the public to be heard for longer 20 minutes. I think the public have a right to participate in a council meeting, particularly when there's so much interest shown.
Members of the public, please say their names now if they wish to speak. Then I shall direct the order of speaking within the 20 minutes by dividing the time equally amongst those who wish to speak. Do we have any members of the public who
Jane Costello.
I'm sorry?
Jane Costello would like an ask question.
Jane Costello is one name. I've got Jane Costello. Any other speakers?
Sue Hull. Anna.
Sue Hull.
Mr. Mayor, apologies again.
Anna.
Names. Anne Armitage.
Mr. Mayor, just for a moment, in terms, and my apologies, members of the public, I will be quiet in a moment, but in terms of good order, you moved to a vote 2 weeks ago on whether or not we should allow some of the public to say. Are you just unilaterally making a decision this evening on behalf of all councillors that we will not suspend standing orders? I know the decision is yours, but let's just be clear.
Are you moving that as a motion then?
I'm moving that as a motion that we
you
allow
have
a
a seconder?
suspension of standing orders.
Yes, you have a
I'll second it.
Right.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'll take the vote for the suspension of the 20-minute rule with relation to public participation. Councillor Best, are you in favour of extending the public participation beyond 20 minutes?
More than 20 minutes, the public speech.
I don't think she can hear you.
You're the first one to vote. Do you want to extend the public speech by more than 20 minutes or not? Another 13.
Sorry, is Councillor
Can we move on?
Is Councillor Best indicated?
Not yet, no.
Councillor Bird to indicate, please.
I think it should be extended.
Councillor Leach?
Yes.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes, it should.
Councillor Money?
Yes, go on then.
Councillor Mosfer?
I can't say no. Can I? No.
Councillor Mosfer?
Sorry, I did say yes. I was still on mute, but that was my own fault.
Got you, thank you. Councillor Purdue Haran?
Is that an abstention, Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Purdue Haran?
Come off the fence.
You must be muted.
I'll move on and come back to Councillor Purdue Haran. Councillor Shelton?
No, I say stick to 20 minutes.
No. Councillor Sims?
Absolutely, yes.
Councillor Stapleton?
Oh, yeah.
Councillor John Stockwood?
If that's what the council wishes.
Is that a yes?
Yes, yes.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
Let's do it for the 20 minutes, please.
My son.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes, I support the motion.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Back to Councillor Purdue Haran, just in case he's unmuted. And Councillor Best.
You want to extend the public speaking, Jane?
Well, what I
Already said it.
I think I'll have to leave this meeting. I'm not hearing that well. I'm going to have no problem at all on my household. Tonight, I can't get anything. It's just really making me hard work trying to hear anything.
We'll just try and hang on for a bit, Jane.
Okay, so
is Councillor Best a no?
this nothing comes up with all the messages. It's on every second.
Councillor Purdue Haran.
Public.
Yeah.
The motion's carried to extend the public session beyond 20 minutes.
Thank you, councillor.
Okay.
Oh,
We
Councillor
now move
Moscow
on
here,
to
sorry.
speaking.
Sorry,
We've
Mr.
got
Mayor.
3 names so far. Jane Costello, Sue Hull and Anne Armitage. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak?
Balance.
Excuse me, what was that?
Kath Balance.
Kath Valence.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Councillor Moscow here, sorry. Can I ask, once we've got the names of who wants to speak, can everyone else go on mute? There's a huge amount of background noise, conversations, children, rustling. Could we just try and keep it quiet, please?
I'd like to ask a question as well, please. My name's James Woodward.
James Woodward.
Jennifer Kay.
I would like to ask a question. Lynn Earp.
Jennifer Kay. Lynn Earp. Any others? Right, we've got 7 speakers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
7 speakers then.
I also have some correspondence as well.
This is for public participation. Is there a reason why my sharing stopped?
Mr. Mayor, that was me, Deputy Clerk. People were asking for the presentation to be took down so they could see.
Well, okay. Not quite sure why that's necessary, but anyway, so the first question is Jane Costello. Hello, Trevor Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Jane Costello.
At the last Policy and Resources Committee, the minutes clearly state a new town manager position. This would be the role of the town clerk, as they are the same. Can I ask where that leaves the deputy clerk? The town and projects for Bingham are growing rapidly. So why remove the town clerk's support and an experienced member of staff? Or is she being considered as collateral damage in your mission to remove the current clerk?
Well, I'm not aware that I have a mission to remove the current clerk, and I'm not aware that the deputy clerk is considered as collateral damage in that mission that doesn't exist. Councillor Hull, have you got a question or observation to make? Sorry, Sue Hull, have you got an observation to make?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, the Town Council spent £4,500 on a staffing review, which noted the need for more senior staff, specifically in relation to relieving the pressure on the clerk and deputy clerk. As the clerk and deputy clerk currently work 62 hours, what hours will be specified for the post of town manager, as the review particularly stressed the need for senior management, not admin? I also remind councillors in January 2019, whilst discussing the review, the chair of P&R, Policy and Resources, said staff are to be reassured as no jobs would be lost, but a more likely result of the review would be an increase in staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. It seems that you're referring to matters that you knew about confidentially from your previous time as a councillor. The staffing review was considered and has been reconsidered since the election. As the new council sets forward a new set of projects and priorities, new staffing requirements are needed. Anne Armitage, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I want to raise an issue about the minutes that I've been reading. I'm new to looking at the town council, although I've been a resident here for some while, and it appears to me that there is a connection between the councillors that are personal. That as a resident, how are you going to assure me that there's not block voting and people being sidelined to follow through agendas of individuals?
Well, each councillor has an equal vote. There are 14 votes on the council. 3 councillors doesn't form a majority on any of the committees. So, and in that sense, what we're looking at in the agenda this evening is an episode of public consultation for a month in which people will be able to express their views. The council does listen to people. We had the big public participation meeting in September, All of our play areas have been built based on a programme of consultation with young people. And so I think there is clear evidence that we do consult people and listen to the people of Bingham.
How
Kath
does that
Vallance.
fit with the minutes of the meeting, Mr. Mayor, where it's clear that 2 people have taken a decision outside process to spend money and now that's under inquiry? How does that fit with people not making decisions hand in hand?
Well, the allegations made in a document that's been distributed by another councillor are not the opinion of this council, but perhaps they'll come up for discussion later on in the agenda. But as it all relates to private and confidential matters relating to the management of a particular employee, I'm not going to comment upon it. James Woodward.
That seems to be the modus operandi of the council, though. If something's put into question and the public's anxieties are raised, it becomes a private matter. Through lots of the minutes that you've published, there's a lot of things that are taken as a private matter as soon as it hits something that's a little bit anxiety provoking for either yourselves or maybe a concern to residents.
It's my understanding that the matters that will go into private and confidential business are agreed by all council, and they are usually legal matters or matters relating to the individual details of staff. James Wood, are we on to Kath Vallance?
Thank you. Oh, hang on. Right, I'm here. I've got 3 very short questions. So the first one is, was the town clerk unfairly dismissed last year and subsequently reinstated?
That'd be a private and confidential matter relating to the performance and management of an employee. Next question.
The draft minutes of P&R show you are looking at making redundancies, yet proposing 2 new posts. Is this another veiled attempt to replace the clerk and other staff?
As I understand it, it's an attempt to make sure that we have the staffing resource we need moving forward. Next question.
Have the council taken legal advice on how much it might cost the taxpayers of Bingham in respect of legal fees and compensation should the town council be taken to tribunal for further cases of unfair dismissal?
The council has a contract with a HR advisor for all advice, and the council is taking further advice regarding future actions regarding its staffing resources for the future. James Woodward, then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not familiar with the workings of town council, so forgive me, but there's a couple of things I'm struggling to understand. First of all, I'm struggling to understand how you, Mr. Mayor, seem to disregard the advice of your own town clerk without voting any authority whatsoever. Secondly, I think you appear to be in direct breach of your own standing orders in terms of your behaviour from what I've seen this evening and from what I've seen during the previous video of the council meetings. Yeah, particularly I'd like a response, please. And I'm sure, I think there was 88 people here this evening outside actual councillors. I think we'd all like to hear an actual response from you on these matters, because what everybody is saying is actual bullying behaviour, which outside of your own world of town councils wouldn't be permitted in any workplace whatsoever.
With regards to this evening, Councillor Wallace sent his entire opinion to the monitoring officer, requesting her advice. I am following the advice that the council has received from the independent monitoring officer. With regards to the previous meeting, you're quite right. There are detailed standing orders for meetings. I apologise for any offence caused by the previous meeting. Town council meetings are usually quite friendly meetings, and I'm surprised by the interruptions to the meeting. As virtual meetings become the new normal for parish councils, everybody is learning, and the rules of the meeting have been made more clear and explained this evening, and I hope people can see that we're trying to do a much better job of being very clear on the standing orders that relate to conduct and participation within the meeting.
You've asked, forgive me, if I could just finish the point. You've been asked by Councillor Wallace, I believe, to actually give the advice to let the public and your own councillors have the advice given to you by the, sorry, it's the Rushcliffe officer, I forget the name. And you've so far either sidestepped that question or refused to answer it directly. So could you please give the residents of this town the advice that you've been given as it relates to Councillor Wallace's agenda, which is clearly a very serious point?
The advice that I've been given from the monitoring officer is that I should explain that there's been an incorrect agenda placed on the website, and then explain that ordinary business from that agenda will be heard at the next ordinary meeting, and that
Mr. Mayor, please don't embarrass yourself. Why don't you read out the advice? I've got it too.
Was it because it's a letter from the monitoring officer? I think with regards to that question, I'll ask for a written response to be given at a later date once we check with the monitoring officer that she's all right with her advice being given out. But all councillors are aware of the advice. All councillors have seen it, and they're aware that I'm acting upon the advice of the independent monitoring officer.
Your town clerk.
Jennifer, I'm sorry, we have one person speaking at a time if we recall from the standing orders.
Mr.
Jennifer
Mayor,
Kay.
am I being ignored?
It's a public participation session at the moment, Councillor Leach. It's for the public to speak. Jennifer Kay has indicated she wishes to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, so at the beginning of the pandemic, there was an approved motion from this council to create a subgroup that had the effective powers of council without public overview. At a following meeting with a significant public turnout, the public were denied a voice, and now during this meeting, there is a clear avoidance of councillor and public questions such as the previous one. At this meeting, Councillor Wallace has called for a vote of no confidence motion, apologies, which has been pushed into confidential matters, when concerns leading to such a motion should surely be known to those they are supposed to represent. I would like to remind certain councillors that councillors are representatives of the people of Bingham and should be answerable to them.
Thank you for your observation. Lynn Earp.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My first question was the same as James Woodward's. I was logging into this meeting and having printed the agenda off the website. I would like to know why we're not following that and what words came from the monitoring officer. I think as we've had this agenda, and the only reason that we are being given that we can't follow it is all about the monitoring officer. I think we're entitled to hear those words.
Right, thank you very much for your view. If there's a written response that I can give it at a future point with regards to the words of the monitoring officer, I'll just check with the monitoring officer after the meeting to see if she wishes her letter to be released.
Okay,
right,
I have a second question.
Second question from Lynn Earp then, please.
There seems to be some dispute about the roles. As being in business and a director of a top 100 company, I would be interested to see the roles and responsibilities of the current town clerk and the proposed position that's now being to be advertised. Is that possible to see anywhere?
It's my understanding that there will be a meaningful consultation with employees, and that includes consideration of the future roles within the council.
But it is the public right. I'm very clear on this, having employed 2,000 people, that the public has a right to see roles and responsibilities before there's any job changes. And I'm really interested to see the current role and responsibility of the new proposed position. And I think I have a right to see the role and responsibilities of the current town clerk. Is that possible for you to provide that for me?
If there's a written response I can give, then if you are in fact correct that with Freedom of Information Act we should release the current job description and the person specification, then I'm certain that we can arrange that. Would it be possible for you to write into the clerk with your request for the specific information you're asking?
Yes, can I also add can I have the words of the monitoring officer to that request as well, please?
Certainly, I will check with the monitoring officer and see if there's an answer we can give on that point. Right then, all the members of the public who have indicated their wish to speak have spoken.
If I might just correct you on a point, if you don't mind. Could you just point me to where council fully considered and set aside the Ellis Whittam report? I realise that these are confidential matters, but I'm aware that we met on the 16th of January at 2 p.m. and you were there. I was there, Councillor Sims, Councillor Shelton, Councillor Purder-Haran, Councillor Stockwood, Councillor Molly Stockwood and Sharon Pike, the town clerk. We considered that meeting the report, and we considered a capacity working group, which was then subsequently set aside at the following full council meeting. Councillor Purder-Haran, when I asked him where the analysis of the current council's provision of services was unable to provide any proper analysis at the meeting where it was first raised. He then turned up with 4 sheets of paper. Could you be clear for me when Bingham Town Council set aside the recommendations of a report which cost us £4,500, ran to 47 pages and included 7 appendices?
At this point in time, I would have to check the records of the council. I believe the meeting that we held may have been in a confidential business, but you did attend it.
I did attend.
And the meeting at that time said that the staffing review was relevant to its time and that the council had moved on. I believe the exact words were.
What's interesting,
But, you participated in that meeting, and I'm sure you recall it as well as I did. But this is really a session for the public to speak. And the public has spoken, and we now move on with the meeting.
John, somebody put the hand up, John.
My hand
Sorry, I can't. One
Somebody's
person
put the
at a
hand up,
time, and
John.
it's for the public to speak. I asked for each person who wished to speak to have to indicate at the beginning. Is that
But John, I still
balance
think you should
indicating
listen
again?
to the public.
Yes, please. It's just in relation to something somebody else has raised. So in the P&R minutes, when it mentions these 2 new positions, it also goes on to say that with the redundancies being made and the new positions available, you would advise applications from internal and external applicants. Surely when making redundancies, any new positions created should be offered to those members of staff that are being made redundant first. And then if they do not fill the post, then advertised externally.
Our actions are going to be taken in accordance with the advice from Ellis Whittam, who we've entered into arrangement with to provide us with consultation on each step of the process moving forward. Right, so we've now been round the public.
Mr. Mayor, I've got the 2 items of correspondence for the public that the clerk mentioned, if you'd like me to read them.
Technically, it's a public participation of people present, but as long as they're not going to take more than 5 minutes to read, otherwise it's not fair on everybody else. But yes, please.
Okay, the first correspondence is, at the last meeting, why were the agenda items on organisation, structure and staffing matters held under private and confidential without explanation or debate? What are these 2 items about? What has happened to make it necessary to restructure Bingham Town Council? And does the staffing item relate to the organisation item? Do you want me to read the second item?
If you wish, yeah.
Okay. I have recently asked for a copy of the staffing review under the Freedom of Information, but as of yet this has not been shared. I would like to see what the independent review has suggested in regards to staffing at Bingham Town Council. If it suggests making the town and deputy clerk positions redundant, then surely in line with employment law, both staff members will be offered the 2 new positions as legally required. If they are invited along with other external candidates to apply for the new roles being created, this is a breach of employment law. If, as a council, you have taken advice from a HR expert, this should be shared in full with public to ensure what you're doing is legal and to not have implications of great cost to the community. I don't believe correct advice has been given to the council. I would also like reassurance from council that in the event they choose to ignore employment law, that any former employees who may wish to apply for new positions who have outstanding grievances against them are not considered. Employing them would result in dismissal for gross misconduct, as outstanding grievances cannot be ignored. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I don't agree with the opinions expressed. Confidential legal advice is excluded from Freedom of Information Act's requests. So I think we've been through this before on other Freedom of Information Act requests recently. It's very clear that confidential legal advice is not something we are legally required to share. Right. With regards to other matters, they've been explained that it was private and confidential business relating to particular employees, and the discussions may have involved discussion of the performance and management of particular employees and matters relating to negotiations moving forward on this, on the staffing structure. So now that I've answered all the public questions, now move on with the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, can I raise a point of information? Can you hear me?
Councillor Wallace, point of information.
Yes, thank you. Just to be certain about the status of the Ellis Whittam report, I would remind you that Councillor Purdo Haran referenced the Ellis Whittam report at our previous meeting. I can't go into the details, obviously, but I think it's important that you recognise that. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for that point of information. The next item on the agenda, item number 4.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Leach with a point of information.
Just a point of information. A little bit back, you said that because of the COVID-19 thing, every town councillor was told what was going on after that meeting. No, you didn't. No, you didn't tell everybody, because I didn't get a message from you telling me. So, excuse me, where is it?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question that you're asking.
You know which one I'm asking, John.
I honestly don't. And because of the details in the next agenda item, I'm going to put that back on the screen. Public have had their participation session.
No.
And now I'm going to read the detail of item number 4.
Hello, I would like to understand the answer to Councillor Leach's question. Councillor Leach, why don't you try one more time, and then we'll see if we can get you an answer.
Could Councillor Leach give more specific details about what exactly is the thing I'm supposed to have said?
You said that, if I'm right, because I've been listening with interest to everything, yeah, that after those meetings, you informed all of the council of the decisions. You didn't inform me because I got no information, and that's happened several times. Thank you very much. And that's all I'm going to say.
I'm sorry, it's still not clear to me which decisions you're referring to. So perhaps you can talk to me about it another time.
I will with pleasure.
I don't believe it alters this evening's meeting. So perhaps you can explain it to me in detail, and I'll give you an answer when I understand the question. Item number 4 then. Windhill Community Facilities Improvement. To resolve that the council consults the public on applying for a loan to fund improved community facilities at the Town Pavilion, Windhill Playing Fields. The loan will be a fixed rate loan for £400,000 from the Public Works Loan Board over a borrowing term of 30 years. The annual loan repayments will come to around £19,126.64 at £6.62% interest. The loan repayments would be an increase on the current precept of 6.4%. representing an increase of around £5.30 on the annual council tax payable for a Band D household. Notes that the council has allocated £50,000 reserves to pay the initial annual loan repayments. The cost of future loan repayments to each household will be reduced by the future precept being shared by additional houses being built in the parish. C delegates to the Mayor, Chair and Vice Chair of Recreation and Amenities Committee to work with the proper officer to prepare the loan application and supporting documentation. D, to proceed with a 1-month public consultation on applying for the loan. E, that if the outcome of the public consultation is public support for the loan, the council will make the formal resolution to seek the Secretary of State's approval for the proposed borrowing at the Town Council meeting on 28th of July 2020. I believe that's been moved by Councillor Mosser and seconded by Councillor Money. Do we have councillors who wish to speak? Can we say your names if you wish to speak, please? I can't hear anybody.
Yes,
Councillor Williams and Councillor Lewis. Hello, Councillor Lewis, were you speaking?
You want me to speak first, John? Or Councillor Williams?
If you're able to speak at the moment, then yes, you speak, Councillor Lewis, and then we'll have Councillor Williams. Okay.
I think this needs to be looked at in the light of the decision made by the full council after a presentation by the rugby club and another presentation by Rushcliffe Borough Council with public participation, which was substantial, on the 24th of September last year, at which it was decided that the funds in the community chest, which then totaled £1.2 million, should be allocated as to 400,000 to the Bingham Rugby Club and 1.2 million to Rushcliffe Borough Council for their leisure centre development. And if there was a shortfall, then that shortfall could be an application to the Public Works Loan Board to finance that shortfall could be considered. So the loan is not specifically to finance the rugby club development, because that is not what Bingham Town Council decided.
That's okay. Well, thank you for your views. Councillor Williams, next to speak.
Thank you. Hopefully be able to hear me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, part of my response would be addressing the concerns from Councillor Lewis. That from last week at Recreation Amenities chaired, I spoke about with going with this application for the funds, and from looking at advice and documents that come from the Department for Governments and Local Department for Communities and Local Government, part of the advice is that they say about the resolution has to state specifically what the borrowing of the money, what project it is for. From the understanding of the resolution from that full council meeting that Councillor Lewis referred to, it had about that we would take the 400 of the 400,000 for the rugby club, and then from the community chest, and then the remaining 800,000 from the community chest towards the community hall, and then the shortfall being from then taking a loan from the Public Works Loan Board for that. Because that kind of what was discussed at that meeting in the minute and resolution states that when the guidance states that it has to be specifically, again, a motion from the council, and resolution has to specifically be against what project it is and how much we're wanting the loan for, and how that much that goes on the preset for the residents. Which is why it is stated in 4A the impact that this would have for a Band D property. From this with D as well, part of the consultation will be in the form of online, but it will be looked at with the current situation with COVID-19 and other ways of participation for the public, in order to put their opinion for a survey on their opinion on the council taking this loan. Of course, there is residents of Bingham who don't all have an online presence, and that is where the consideration would be on how we can engage those residents and that they're consulted. It sadly is part of an exercise that we have to do, demonstrate actions that we take as a council before logging our and proceeding with our application for the Public Works Loan Board, and this is part of why this resolution needs to come before council. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got any other councillors who wish to speak at this point?
Mr. Mayor, could I possibly come back on what Councillor Williams has just said?
It is one speech per person, Councillor Leach. So
yeah,
it needs to be, sorry, Councillor Lewis. So it needs to be a point of information. Yes.
Well, point of information, if you wish. I just wanted to say that I totally accept what Councillor Williams has said, and I think it's a very accurate assessment of the situation. And also, I'd like to say that I'm not at all opposed to the idea of raising a public works loans board loan at that rate of interest over 30 years, and I don't really mind about having a fiver on the council tax to pay for it, but I don't see why the disbursement of the £400,000 to the rugby club should be delayed in any way whatsoever. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other councillors indicating they wish to speak at this time for this item?
Yes, please.
I'd like to.
Councillor Sims, I think, has had her hand up, perhaps.
Yes, please.
Councillor Sims to speak, and then Councillor Wallace.
Okay, so thanks, Tony. So I would just like to say it's a refreshing change to see that some Conservatives have finally come round and voted for the right to let the public speak. I don't know if that's because the press are here and there's plenty more public, but thank you anyway, because it's quite refreshing, as I've said. Secondly,
loan, perhaps, please.
Sorry?
Point of order. We're discussing the loan now, Councillor Sims. Can you move to the discussion of the loan?
I'll do a point of order after the rugby but I'd like people to stay online to hear what I say from the public if possible.
So you don't wish to speak to, okay, thank you very much then. Councillor Wallace, you want to speak regarding the Win Hill Community Facilities improvement?
Indeed, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm following the agenda. Thank you very much. And I just want to, for the benefit perhaps of the public rather than councillors here, I may be coming across as being unnecessarily harsh and unnecessarily harsh on some aspects of the council. But I do want to just make it clear that I take no pleasure in that. I think that what the council is doing, and particularly what Councillor Williams is doing around this to support the Win Hill development, is a terrific thing for the town. It's taken longer than I think I would have otherwise hoped for that to come around. But I just want to make it clear for anybody listening that I, in common, I think, with all councillors, very much support this development. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Mosfer, you wish to speak?
No, I didn't, but I can do.
Do you just want to say that you're proposing it, just to be clear?
Mr. Mayor, can I raise a point of order?
Councillor Purdue-Horan, I think, speaking. If you say your name first, I can. Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Yes, please.
Councillor Purdue-Horan, then. You speak then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologies for earlier. I had problems with my laptop, so I'm now using my phone.
Point of order, please.
My understanding is, Mr. Mayor, that to be legal, we must hear a proposer propose a motion and a seconder second a motion. I have not heard anyone propose or second. Therefore, I am very concerned that this will not be legal. We must hear a proposer and a seconder.
Okay,
Councillor
then.
Moscow.
Councillor Mosfer's going to speak
Yeah.
to
yeah,
say
I'll-
that he proposes it.
Yeah, as Vice Chair of Rec and Amenities, I propose this motion.
I'll second it.
Councillor Moni wishes to speak. You say this, so she seconds it.
I do second it.
Thank you very much. Now that we've all heard that being spoken, all councillors who wish to speak to the item have spoken. It's we now move to the vote. Can we have the proper officer read through the names, please?
Yeah, are we taking each item individually and separately?
I do believe it's a single resolution.
Right.
So no, it's one big resolution.
Right, so this is to accept item A through to item E. Councillor Best.
Councillor Best, do you accept item 4 on the agenda?
I heard that, thank you. Councillor Bird.
Yes.
Councillor Leach.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis.
Yes.
Councillor Moni.
Yes.
Councillor Moskwa.
Yes.
Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Yes.
Councillor Shelton.
Yes.
Councillor Sims.
Yes.
Councillor Stapleton.
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Wallace.
For.
And Councillor Williams is not voting on this item as he declared an interest. Councillor voted in favour of supporting the Win Hill Community Facilities improvement.
Right, thank you very much, everyone. So, before we move to item number 5, in accordance with Standing Order 1A, motions on the agenda shall be considered in the order that they appear, unless the order is changed at the discretion of the chairman of the meeting. As chairman of the meeting, I change the order of motions to replace item number 5 last, and item number 6 is next. We now move to item
John,
number
can I
6.
speak now, please? John,
Oh.
can I speak now, please? As a point of order, as you've told me to do.
Okay.
Okay, I would just like everybody to know, including the public, and I'll say it again, I do say it quite as often as I can. I was outed from the Conservative Party because I
Does
voted
this relate to
against
standing orders?
whatever you want to relate it to, John. You and I know that I need more training, so I don't fully understand how it goes, but I'm going to say what I need to say. Is that okay?
Technically, a point of order should relate to a point of standing orders that you're concerned about.
John, I did tell you a minute ago, didn't I, that I'll do it as a point of order. So I'd let you all speak about what we've just voted on. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Is that okay?
You're giving a brief point of information about your personal views. Can we proceed then, please?
It's not a personal view, John. It is fact that I was outed by the Conservatives after voting against something that they told me I should vote for. And it was clear then, back in 2019, that they wanted, as in you and other Conservatives, wanted the clock gone. And now it's clear that that is what you're playing at doing. So I just wanted everybody to know I am still a Conservative, and that, as far as I could see, it was the agenda, and it just proves now from what you were all doing. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your personal views, but that's a personal view expressed. Item number 6 on the agenda. Councillor motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to raise a further point of order, please, if I might.
It's relating to an irregularity in the standing orders.
It is indeed, and of course, you have pointed out that you have moved, you've chosen to move the order of the agenda paper. And as you quite correctly point out, motions should be taken in the order that they are submitted. My point of order relates to Standing Order 3D, which states that meetings shall be open to the public unless their presence is prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted or for other special reasons. The public exclusion from part or all of a meeting shall be by a resolution which shall give reasons for the public's exclusion. Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that it's inappropriate for my motion to be placed in private and confidential for the following reasons. There's been a lot said about whether the meeting I convened for this evening was valid. You and I continue to disagree on the point, but you have the numbers, so you have won the argument. I may disagree with councillors, but democracy insists that I accept the will of council, and that I do. However, on one thing I think we do all agree. This meeting is only happening this evening because I requested of you that it be convened. The second thing I think we can all agree on was that the catalyst for the meeting was my motion of confidence that you've now placed or seek to place in private and confidential, subject to the will of the meeting, obviously. So the question is, why is it to be placed in private and confidential? You, Mr. Mayor, set out your reasoning as to why it should be in private and confidential on 2 grounds, and if you don't mind, I'll read it. The HR expenditure referred to in the confidential business is the council's decision to pay for confidential employment law advice regarding the performance and management of a particular employee. It is reasonable to consider the discussion of the motion will include reference to A, the confidential legal advice to the council, and B, the performance and management of a particular employee. The reasoning is flawed, Mr. Mayor. I do not dispute that the motion arises out of my...
But you've had advice from the monitoring officer, Councillor Wallace. Point of order. You've had advice from the monitoring officer that when we come to a confidential business motion, you just vote on it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if you're familiar with standing orders, then you'll know that you wait until I've finished my standing order before you interrupt me. Not only is it good manners, but it is actually in the Bingham Town Council standing orders. If I had time, I would quote the standing order to you, but I don't. The reasoning is flawed. I do not dispute that the motion arises out of my review of HR expenditure for the year to 31st of March 2000. However, the purpose of the motion is not to discuss either the nature of the advice or the conduct and management of any employee. It focuses on the process councillors took to procure it and whether that was in accordance with the town's standing orders and financial regulations. I would submit that it was not, and that is clear from my paper submitted to council. The purpose of the motion is to discuss the standing orders of Bingham Town Council and the authority and restrictions that those rules confer on councillors, the financial regulations which apply to this council in common with all similar councils, whether councillors have breached those rules, whether the council has protected the right of privacy to a member of staff. I've prepared and submitted a paper setting out my concerns, and I'm happy for those concerns and any response to be heard in public. Councillors may well disagree with much of what I have to say, but I'm sure that all will agree that I've at all times advanced the argument that for the good of society, democracy has to be done. But that is of itself not enough. It has to be seen to be done. The question here is, who are council seeking to protect? If it's not the employee and it's not the advice that the council has received, who is it? It's the councillors that I've named in this document who have exceeded their authority and committed council to expenditure they were not empowered to incur. Councillors, I looked at YouTube yesterday evening. Our last virtual meeting has now been viewed almost 2,000 times, and we have over 70 requests to join this meeting. I'm looking at a number that it seems to be 81 at the moment. The New York Advertiser is here. The public want to know what is going on, and I, for one, believe that they're entitled to do so. On that basis, I move that motion 5A is moved from private and confidential to the main part of the council's business, and I would like a seconder to support that. I'm now happy to hear Thank you, and I'm happy to hear the mayor's point of order now. Thank you.
Okay, well, as I, in line with Standing Order 1A, moved that agenda item 6 is the next agenda item, your speech actually relates to a future point in the agenda. So we'll now do item number 6, the councillor motion. Bingham Town Council makes available funds from COVID-19 Humanitarian Aid Fund for Bingham community groups or sport clubs who have suffered with a loss of income as a result of pandemic. Proposed, Councillor Gareth Williams, and seconded by Councillor Wayne Stapleton. So would Councillor Williams like to introduce his motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
It, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to propose the motion that has just been read out by the town mayor. With the fund that was approved of 25,000 on for the full council meeting on the Thursday, the 9th of April, that there is a lot of community groups and sports clubs around Bingham that I'm sure have suffered a loss through income that they would normally have that were coming through to the summer period, where a lot of events and summer events have been cancelled, but also membership have potentially dropped down from not able to participate in particular sports clubs and that kind of thing, where people aren't paying because they're not able to do sport. But slowly some sports, I'm glad to see, are coming back. But of course, we do have some sports clubs in Bingham that lose the leisure centre facility and at the moment can't use it because of the restrictions. So that is why I've brought this motion to council. And as stated, I've got Councillor Wayne Stapleton to second it. Thank you.
Councillor Stapleton as the seconder.
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much. Do you have anybody else who wishes to speak? No. We now move to the vote on item number 6 then.
Councillor Best, are you in favour of the COVID-19 humanitarian aid being allocated to the Bingham community groups or sports clubs who have suffered loss during the pandemic?
Item number 6.
Yeah, got that. Councillor Bird?
Yes.
Councillor Leach?
Yes, as long as it goes to those that need it.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes.
Councillor Money?
Agreed.
Councillor Mosber?
Yes.
Councillor Purdue Haran?
Yes.
Councillor Shelton?
Yes.
Councillor Sims?
Absolutely yes.
Councillor Stapleton?
Yes.
Councillor John Stockwood?
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
For.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes, for.
And Councillor Williams?
For.
Thank you. That carried unanimously.
Right. We now move to the vote on confidential business. As advised by the monitoring officer, we go straight to the vote. The reasons given, either you agree or you don't agree.
Mr. Mayor, tedious though it may seem, I have raised a point of order. You have told me that it was inappropriate to raise it at the time. I'm not going to waste the public's time by reading through the point of order again, but as we both know, I moved that my motion not be taken to private and confidential. Yes. I asked the seconder for that, Mr. Mayor.
And I said I would second it.
Thank you. Shall we move to the vote?
No, because you can't. That's direct negation of the agenda item motion. Yes, if you don't want it to go to confidential, you just vote against the confidential business motion.
Okay.
That's very clear on the papers on that one. You just have to vote against it if you don't want to go to confidentiality. So we now move to a vote on Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 to resolve that in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, the press and public be excluded from the next item or final item of the meeting. For the reason the HR expenditure referred to in the confidential business is the council's decision to pay for confidential employment law advice regarding the performance and management of a particular employee. It is reasonable to consider the discussion of the motion will include reference to the confidential legal advice to the council, the performance and management of a particular employee. Can we have a vote now then, please?
Councillor
Sorry, John, can this vote be recorded?
All the names being read out. So yes, I'm sure it will be recorded.
Thank you.
Item number 5.
Councillor Best, are you in favour of moving this motion into confidential? Councillor Best?
Item number 5. On the line again.
Yeah. Councillor Bird?
this should not be in confidential. It's a bloody shame.
Councillor, are you doing the names?
Councillor Leach.
Pardon? I'll just say the same as Rowan. It should not be. And therefore, if you don't mind, I'll abstain because I think it's disgusting.
Okay.
For, against or abstain, please. Lewis, Councillor Lewis.
Against.
Councillor Money.
Okay, Councillor Clark doing it.
Councillor Mosfer.
She didn't hear me.
Thank you. Councillor Mosfer.
Yep, on the basis it may lead to us talking about the details of an individual employee, I'm for moving it to confidential.
Councillor Purdue-Haran.
In favour of moving to confidential.
Councillor Shelton. Councillor Shelton.
Councillor Shelton, you're muted. Nobody can hear you.
Yeah. In favour of moving it to confidential.
Councillor Sims.
I'm absolutely disgusted, but again, I hope the public see who vote and who vote against and for. I am absolutely for it being kept where it is, not being moved. And I apologise to the public.
Not being moved.
Same here, Gemma.
Councillor Stapleton.
For.
Councillor John Stockwood.
For.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
For. Here we go.
Councillor
again.
Wallace.
I'm against.
Councillor Williams.
For.
And just go back to Councillor Best.
Councillor Shelton, you need to unmute and let Councillor
Jane,
Best know.
are
if
you
she wants to
for
speak to
or
number
against?
5.
Yeah. Are you for or against moving item 5? Did you get that, Clark?
I think I heard yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's a vote to go into confidential business then.
Right, the public meeting session of the meeting finishes at 8:19. Thank you very much. We now, councillors now move into the confidential business.